Arkansas and the husband from a neighbouring southern state. She was still frightened, while he, I would say, was still furious. The incident had occurred about the time when they were getting married, and they'd since had children. From the photos on the mantelpiece and around the place, I could see that they were well connected locally, and they talked as if social as well as family embarrassment might be involved in any publicity. I thought they might be taking themselves much too seriously, even over-dramatising things. And I also thought, come on, Clinton may be sleazy, but he's not an ogre, for Christ's sake. Morris asked the woman the mandatory questions. Did you think you were coming on to him? Were there mixed signals? Was this just a bad date or a misunderstanding? However, the woman later called him and arranged to meet in a roadhouse barbecue joint on the far outskirts of town. She still wished, she said, that no one had ever found out, but she had to tell one or two people the following. She told me it took place in a work situation, but after work. She'd been working on his campaign, not in his Arkansas government office. When I asked her, were you interested or were you attracted, she said definitely not. She already had a man and was on the cusp of marriage. At a party in a campaign supporter's home, they were left alone after the main crowd had departed, and he suddenly got very nasty, threw her down, forced her, bit her hard on the mouth and face. She told me she felt more disgraced than violent. Professional investigators on police rape squads learned to recognize an MO in these matters, and the biting of the lip or the face was also the specialized distinctive feature in the case of Juanita Broderick. It's important to stress here that neither Miss Broderick nor the woman in the Morris biography can possibly have known of each other's existence or in any way concerted their separate stories at the time they told them. Here, in its extensively corroborated detail, is the testimony of Juanita Broderick. In the spring of 1978, Juanita Hickey, as she was then known during her first marriage, was a registered nurse running a nursing home in the town of Van Buren, Arkansas. Clinton was the state's Attorney General and much engaged in his first run for the governorship. Impressed by his candidacy, Juanita, as I'll now call her, volunteered to hand out bumper stickers and signs, and first met the aspiring governor when he made a campaign stop at her nursing home. While he was there visiting, he said, "If you're ever in the Little Rock area, please drop by our campaign office. Be sure and call me when you come in." A photograph of this first meeting exists. It shows the personable Juanita and a young Clinton looking like someone auditioning for a Bee Gees lookalike contest. On the 25th of April, 1978, Juanita was in Little Rock for a nursing home convention held at the Camelot Hotel, and she did call him. He said that after all, he wouldn't be at the campaign office, so why don't I just meet you for coffee in the Camelot coffee shop? She agreed to this, and also to a later call from him that proposed, since there were reporters in the coffee shop, that they meet instead in her hotel room. I had coffee sitting on a little table over there by the window, and it was a real pretty window view that looked down at the river. And he came around me and sort of put his arm over my shoulder to point to this little building. And he said that he was really interested, if he became governor, to restore that little building. And then all of a sudden, he turned me around and started kissing me. I first pushed him away. Then he tries to kiss me again. And the second time he tries to kiss me, he starts biting on my lip. He starts to bite on my top lip, and I try to pull myself away from him. And he then forces me down on the bed. And I was just very frightened. It was a real panicky situation. And I was even to the point where I was getting very noisy, yelling to please stop. But that's when he would press down on my right shoulder and he would bite on my lip. Her skirt was torn at the waist, her pantyhose ripped at the crotch, and the Attorney General of Arkansas forced an entry. When everything was over with and he got up and straightened himself, and I was crying at the moment, and he walks to the door and calmly puts on his sunglasses, and before he goes out the door he says, "You'd better get some ice on that." And he turned and went out the door. The advice about ice turned out to be sound, according to Juanita's friend Norma Kelsey, who had come along for the trip, who knew that a meeting with Clinton was planned, and who found Juanita in tears with a badly swollen lip and ripped pantyhose. She was one of 5 real-time witnesses to whom Juanita told the story while her injuries were still visible. The others, all of whom have testified to this effect, being Susan Lewis, Louis Marr, Jean Darby, the sister of Norma Kelsey, and her husband-to-be, David Broderick. At the time, it's important to mention she was carrying on a love affair with Mr. Broderick and hoped to escape her first marriage and become his wife. This supplied A disincentive for casual dalliance with the candidate, of the sort his less tasteful supporters have been known to suggest, and B, an additional incentive to keep quiet and avoid scandal. All of her friends also urged her to maintain silence because nobody in the Arkansas of the time would believe her. NBC News possesses great fact-checking resources and didn't air its interview with the highly convincing Juanita until after an exhaustive process of inquiry. It established her whereabouts on the day in question, even confirming that the view from the hotel bedroom would have been as she described it. There should have been no difficulty in establishing the whereabouts of a state attorney general on any given day. Records and appointment books are kept, and of course the presumption of innocence suggests that a politician will be eager to help establish an alibi. But according to Lisa Myers, the much-respected correspondent on the story, was Bill Clinton even in Little Rock on April the 25th, 1978? Despite our repeated requests, the White House would not answer that question and declined to release any information about his schedule. So we checked 45 Arkansas newspapers and talked to a dozen former Clinton staffers. We found no evidence that Clinton had any public appearances on the morning in question. Articles in Arkansas newspapers suggest he was in Little Rock that day. There's one grace note to set beside the biting as a kind of Clintonian signature. In 1991, Juanita was at another nursing home meeting in Little Rock and was suddenly called out into the hallway to meet the governor. At least one witness remembers seeing them together and wondering what they could be talking about. According to Juanita, he immediately began this profuse apology, saying, "Juanita, I'm so sorry for what I did." He would say things like, "I'm not the man that I used to be. Can you ever forgive me? What can I do to make things up to you?" And I'm standing there in absolute shock, and I told him to go to hell, and I walked off. She wondered why he had made this clumsy bid for contrition, until a short while afterwards she heard him announce publicly that he was beginning a campaign for the Democratic nomination for the presidency. For this, of course, and on many future occasions, a new Clinton would be required. By the time that NBC aired its Broderick interview, which it withheld until the impeachment trial was over, the president's defenders had become hardened to dealing with accusations from outraged females. They were usually able to imply either that the woman in question was an ally of the political right or on a gold-digging expedition, or a slut of low character who had probably asked for it, or eager to cash in on a memoir. None of these tactics would work with Juanita because she'd been a political supporter of Clinton's, had not asked for or received any money for her story, did not wish to market a book, and had since her divorce and remarriage lived a highly respectable life owning and operating a horse farm with her husband. Indeed, she had not in the ordinary sense gone public at all. Rather, she had been outed by one of the very few people she had told who was a Republican. Having at one point gone to the length of denying the story under oath in order to protect her privacy and that of her new family, she saw that this was futile and determined. If the story were to be told, it should be told fully and by her. The lie under oath resulted from a subpoena from Paula Jones's lawyers in a case in which she did not wish to involve herself. No forensic